Yes, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. And if you're watching on our YouTube channel, Tar Heel Illustrated, I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me for today's THI podcast, our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And Andrew, we're here to talk about North Carolina's NCAA tournament resume, its NCAA tournament chances, however you want to put it. We're here to talk about Carolina and the upcoming NCAA tournament and what their situation is looking like right now in terms of that. Before we dive into it, though, AJ, I'm going to go ahead and plug a piece that you put out on Wednesday talking about Carolina's NCAA tournament chances. I'm going to put that link in the description below. Make sure you guys give that a read. A lot of really good information on there. And obviously, we'll be touching on some of the same things from that piece, but AJ goes a little bit more in depth in there, and y'all definitely give that a read
And it's not
after you're
premium
done
content.
watching. No, not premium.
It's not premium content. It's actually free. A lot of our stuff is premium, and but this one is not premium. We decided to let it out there for everyone to see.
Exactly. This one's free. Like I said, a lot of good information there. So after you're done watching this, of course, y'all go click the link below it and go check that out. AJ, let's dive right into it, though, man. Carolina currently sitting at 12-6 overall, 7-4 in the ACC at the time of this recording. I'm going to go ahead and kind of run through what Carolina's looking like in terms of their Q1 through Q4 wins, and then I'll let you kind of dive into it a little bit more. But looking at their Q1 wins right now, Carolina currently, and these can obviously fluctuate depending on what teams are doing, so keep that in mind. Carolina is 1-5 against Q1 teams. Only win currently coming at Pittsburgh. That's their only Q1 win at the moment. Q2 wins 5-1, Q3 wins 4-0, and Q4 wins 2-0. AJ, so I mean, the one that sticks out, obviously, is those Q1 wins. Those are the ones you really want in terms of boosting your NCAA tournament resume. Carolina's sitting at 1-5 right now. Not great, to say the least, not good enough. What are your thoughts on where Carolina's kind of currently sitting right now in terms of the NCAA tournament?
Well, I think it's important that people understand, what qualifies as a Q1 win and how fluid it is, because Carolina had one Q1 win a couple of days ago as well, and that was Duke, and then it flipped with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh moved up to 74. Duke is at 76, so it's now a Q2 win.
Right outside
if
the
Duke
bowl, yeah.
suddenly moved up to, let's say the team that Duke beat has a big win tonight, Duke could move up to 75 and then NET rating tomorrow, then it would be a Q1 win again. So the Q1 win standard is this. And this is based on NET rankings, and the NCAA Selection Committee uses the NET. That is, throw away the old RPI. It's now the NET. So a home win over anybody 1 through 30 in the NET, that's a Q1 win. A neutral site win over somebody 1 through 50, that's a Q1 win. And road wins over teams 1 through 75 is a Q1 win. Pitt is 74.
Right in there.
So it's a Q1 win. But it's barely a Q1 win. Duke is a Q2 on the road now, but it's barely a Q2 win. So I posted something on our board last night about, hey, you guys need to root for Pittsburgh. You need to root for Duke. And, of course, I got decapitated for saying that I should root for Duke. Of course, I should know better. Someone even said, that's like asking you to root for the Yankees or Red Sox. Well, that's never going to happen. But I get that. My whole point is that it got me to think, they do need to, this is the time of year where fans of teams that are not locks, you kind of need to figure out who to root for that can help you. And so much of this is computer driven, and the NET is not just based on what Carolina does. Carolina has to win games. That's number one. Okay, but how else can their NET be helped? So I went and crunched the numbers, and the Tar Heels need some help. They need some help primarily from Stanford, because Stanford's 58 in the NET, and the Cardinal, if the Cardinal could get into the top 50, that win over them in Nashville in the Maui Invitational becomes a Q1 win. So imagine if Duke somehow figures out a way to, and Duke's got a really tough schedule coming up, especially given the way it's playing. And I know y'all aren't going to, if you're a Carolina fan, you're watching this, I know you're not going to root for Duke, but if Duke's going to win some games and ends up 75 in the NET, that's going to help Carolina. You want Pitt to win some more games, but here's a danger in conference play is that if a conference team beats a conference team, that helps you in respect and kind of hurts you a little bit more in other respect. But I think the key here is getting as many Q1 wins as possible, Jacob. So Pitt in the league, you want them to win some more games, and then if teams like Syracuse, which is 47 or 48 right now in the NET, Carolina goes up there and gets a win. That's a Q1 win. There's a path for Carolina to accumulate 4 or 5 quad 1 wins.
Mhm.
And if they do that and they get to 18 overall wins, I think you're looking at like a 7, 8, or 9 seed, maybe even a 6, depending on what else happens. I think that's very realistic. But they need other teams to win games to assure that Carolina also has Q1 wins from clubs that are kind of in that fringe area.
Mm-hmm. Let's look at kind of what Carolina's got coming up next. Obviously, we did a podcast talking about the game against Miami on Monday being canceled. We don't know if that one's going to be made up. We just don't know.
They could use that. They'd be 13-6 in that, Jacob. And Miami's like 147 in the AT, so it wouldn't really have helped. Wins help.
Yeah, wins
just help. You don't go down generally with a win. And Carolina was 50 in the NET a couple of days ago, and they're 55 now because Iowa lost, Texas lost. I mean, these things affected. So you need to win. If you win, you move up. There's some teams that are really highly rated in the NET that don't play a great schedule, but they're racking up wins.
Yeah.
So when you win, you generally move up. Generally.
Yeah.
But you need help from your other guys. That's kind of the point of the piece and some of what we're discussing here. But go on.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But looking ahead, obviously, we don't know when that game's going to be rescheduled. Who knows if it actually will be. But, Carolina's supposed to take on Virginia this Saturday in Charlottesville. That's a huge potential for a Q1 win. I know that, Charlottesville is a place that has not been friendly to Carolina over, really for probably the past 5 years. I think I saw something where Carolina was like 0-6 or something crazy up there or something like crazy like that in the past few years. Yeah, just they regularly do not beat Virginia, especially in Charlottesville. After that, you got Virginia Tech at home, Louisville at home, 2 decent teams, 2 above average teams in the ACC that are sitting at closer to the top half of the league. Then you go at Boston College. Yeah, go ahead.
And very quickly, both of them string together a few more wins. Those could end up Q1 wins too, because Virginia Tech is 34 and Louisville's 35.
So those could be big wins. And obviously those are in Chapel Hill. So you got to like Carolina's chances a little bit better. Obviously there's no crowds anywhere you go, but you would think playing at home would be better off, especially when you consider Carolina's undefeated there right now. So, and then looking ahead, but behind those games, so you got at UVA, Virginia Tech, Louisville. Then you've got at Boston College, Florida State at home, at Syracuse, and then they finish off the regular season as they always do with Duke, and that one's in Chapel Hill. So you look at those. You've obviously got at UVA is a prime opportunity. Is at Syracuse one right now? I think you said that they're
you have to be top 75.
Right
yeah, okay. So Syracuse is 49 in the NET. So their Q1 opportunities they have left are at UVA. UVA is number 7. FSU at home, they're number 24. At Syracuse, they're number 49. So those are the 3 absolute Q1 opportunities that they have left. Remember, if Pitt wins some games and stays in top 75, that will be a certain Q1 win. Stanford can win and get into the top 50. That's another one. Then it's possible they could beat Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's playing well. What if Virginia Tech beats UVA again?
Yeah.
And they sprint. Let's say on Selection Sunday, they're number 29. That's a Q1 win. Louisville's got a good team. Louisville's going to get healthy too. They've been on a pause, but apparently they're going to be healthier coming out of the pause they've been all year. They're at 35. They have opportunities to build their resume too and get into the top 30. And if there's an ACC tournament, there would be more opportunities there. I think what's important is they could, if they beat FSU at home and they win at Syracuse, I think winning at Syracuse is more realistic. And Pitt stays atop a Q1 game, and Stanford gets themselves in there. If they can get 4 and they win 18 games, they're going to not only be a lock for the tournament, but at least they're looking at maybe the 8-9. The committee, CBS, would love Carolina as an 8 seed versus an overseeded 9, someone that they could beat, and stick them up there against Gonzaga in the second round. They would love that.
Oh, they would absolutely eat that up.
That's probably what Carolina's looking at. And the last time they were in an 8-9 game was 2000.
Yep.
And they beat Missouri, and then they beat number 1 Stanford in the second round. And they actually got to the Final Four that year.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it happen before, even at Carolina, you know what I mean? So what do you think is you kind of mentioned that 4 number right there. Because if you look at Carolina's Q2 through Q4 wins, I mean, what are they right now? 11-1. I mean, that's good. It's just when it comes to beating those Q1 teams 1-5 right now, Carolina's really struggled with that. In your opinion, AJ, what do you think? And I don't even know if you can answer this question, and feel free if you can't, just tell me. But What do you think the magic kind of number is for Carolina in terms of Q1 wins? Do you think there's like a minimum that they just have to have any chance?
You can't have none.
Yeah, obviously. Do you think it's
so? I mean, they can still get in with none. I've seen mocks where they say, well, if they could get 12 Q2 wins, it depends on where their NET is, and if North Carolina's on the fence, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt.
Oh yeah, for sure.
North Carolina and eyeballs and all that kind of stuff, but Pitt's no guarantee. I doubt Duke's going to finish up there. I just see Duke having
when you look
trouble.
at their schedule too. Yeah, we were talking about that off camera. It's challenging.
Very challenging. The next two might be the most winnable games they have left. It's at State and at Wake.
Yeah, Wake.
And I'm not even sure. I mean, I think State right now, the way they drive the ball, and anyway, this isn't a Duke podcast, but the minimum number, they're going to have to get one somewhere. And that's why it's really important that Pitt moves up and Stanford moves up, because they've already won those games.
Mm-hmm.
So they can help you even without having to play them again, because you've already taken care of business against those guys. And Stanford has some chances left. Stanford still has Colorado. They got them at home. And they have Oregon at home. Oregon's 59. Colorado's 15 in the NET. And they go to Southern Cal, who's 16. So I'll tell you right now, if Stanford can win two of these games, if they could beat Colorado or Southern Cal on the road, and they take care of Oregon, and they got some other, slop. They play the bottom of that league. They play Oregon State, Washington State as well, though they're on the road. If they can not stumble and win, a couple of those games that I just mentioned, or between Colorado, Oregon, and USC, they got a great chance of finishing in the top 50.
Mm-hmm.
Pitt, I think, is kind of rebounded some. They're starting to play a lot better. And I think Pitt's probably going to finish in the top 75, so they need that. But of the games that they have left, I don't see them winning in Charlottesville.
No.
Florida State's just not a great matchup for them. But Carolina played FSU tough in Tallahassee, and Carolina's a better team now. And FSU, we'll see. MJ Walker wasn't playing that great before they hit their pause, so we'll see what FSU's all about. I think up in Syracuse is their best chance, because Carolina just plays really well against Syracuse. They got bigs that can pass. They really used the middle of that zone very well. They used the baseline really well inside that zone. So I would think that Syracuse is their best chance. But if they can get one at Syracuse, Jacob, Pitt stays top 75, Stanford launches into the top 50, and they'll give them 3, and they'll be good to go. You want more?
Yeah.
But I think that'll be good enough, provided they're in the 17, 18 win range.
So, I mean, kind of moral of the story, it's a big, 7-game stretch to end the season that's kind of coming up for Carolina, because, like I said, they just, as of right now when we're recording this, and like AJ's mentioned with the Q1 wins and the Q wins, those can fluctuate based on what teams do. But now,
but the overall NET rating is important too. They're 55 right now, which is not great.
No, it's not.
And part of the reason is because Iowa's been struggling a little bit lately.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa's got a really tough schedule coming up. Iowa and Texas can help them, because they both have a ton of huge games coming up, and that won't give them a huge boost, but it will help the NET rating. So if Carolina can help itself by winning games and get up to like 46 or 47, if Texas and Iowa play really well, and if Kentucky can pick up some wins, they have a few opportunities. They got to go to Tennessee. If they can right the ship a little bit and pick up some wins, they're 80 right now in the NET. And that was a neutral site game, so they got a long way to go for that to ever become a Q1 win. That's not going to happen. But, Iowa still has to play Michigan State. They still got to play Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Michigan. Those are great opportunities to bolster their NET, which is already 10, but it's 10 and trending the wrong way. Mm-hmm. Texas is 21, but they still got Oklahoma. They still got Texas Tech. Both of them are at home. They got to go to West Virginia. They got to go to Kansas. So they have a lot of opportunities to move up from 21. So those Carolina fans need to pay attention to what those teams are doing, because that will help the NET. And then, of course, like I said 1,000 times, Stanford can help with the Q1 stuff. And Kentucky, too. I know Carolina fans aren't going to root for UK.
That's not going to happen.
UK and Duke winning games right now actually can help Carolina. But Carolina fans aren't going to root for those guys. But, if Kentucky can beat, Ole Miss and Auburn and steal one at Tennessee, which is unlikely to happen, that will help Carolina's NET number. And if they can get that thing to 42 with 3 Q1 wins, I think they're in great shape.
It's interesting stuff, man. It really is. 'Cause I really enjoyed reading your piece and kind of talking about it off camera as well. But like I said, go read that piece after this video is done. Link in the description. But it's just it's kind of fascinating to see how things can fluctuate and kind of the different situations that can play out, and how, like you mentioned, you can rely on you can even, if you're a Carolina fan, I know they're not going to do it. You can sit there and be like, man, we need Kentucky and Duke to win a little bit. It just kind of makes things a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, but Kentucky's having a crappy season anyway, so even if they pick up 3 or 4 wins, they're still
it's not going to change anything. Yeah,
not going to change anything. I know that there are some diehards thinking right now, yeah, but we got to catch them in the all-time wins number because they're behind. I get that.
Yeah, I do. I get it.
But don't you also want to make the NCAA tournament?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you want to play in the NCAA tournament while Duke and Kentucky are home?
Mm-hmm.
So if they win a few games. Yeah, you might not be thrilled about it, but it helps Carolina. And that's the thing. A lot of Carolina fans that I know are very centric on just whatever Carolina does. Like the only college basketball games they watch every week are the ones that Carolina plays in.
Mm-hmm.
They know how these other teams are doing, but they're not a lock for the tournament. They need help, and they need to help themselves.
Yeah.
So pay attention to what these other teams are doing. And even if they are pretty much a lock for the tournament at some point, their seed is going to be important. And, I still, even in years past when we were covering the teams that were really, really good that ended up with 1 seed or 2 seeds, I still did these kind of reports because you want to, then you're jockeying for seeding or when the first weekend of the tournament is in North Carolina, you want to play close to home. So you want to be higher on that seed line in order to get a better chance of playing close to home. This is the same kind of thing, but right now we're just talking straight up NCAA viability, and they're fighting for that. And they lost an opportunity to pick up. Well, I wouldn't say it would be an easy win because Miami's a fight. They fight, and they have McGusty and Elijah Wong's playing well. And they had a good week last week, so there's no guarantee Carolina would have won that game, but they very probably likely would have won that game.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd be at 13-6, and now you'd say, okay, well they only need to find 4 or 5 more wins. Now they probably need to find 5 or 6 more.
And also that Clemson game too, because I think I know Clemson struggled a little bit recently, but I mean that Clemson game, that the one in Chapel Hill that ended up getting, it doesn't look like that one's going to end up being, made up. So that one can hurt a little bit too when you consider,
if they embrace my idea in my column I wrote were cancel the conference tournaments, and it's because we're not going to go into that podcast right now, but go read the column. It's actually free as well.
I'll put the link down there as well.
The whole point behind that very quickly is that you have to have 7 consecutive days of negative testing in order to get to the bubble in Indianapolis for the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So why have these conference tournaments and run the risk of all these teams coming from all over the place doing God knows what when they're there, running the risk of positive tests, and then suddenly if you get a positive test, how do you actually get to the NCAA tournament the next week? So I say, instead of playing the conference tournament, on Tuesday, everybody play games, makeup games that have been postponed. Thursday, everybody play makeup games that have been postponed. Have them on TV all day long, like the ACC tournament would be.
Yeah, same kind of layout.
You still get a little feel for that. The league gets some of its ACC tournament money back by getting extra games on TV, and they're not going to lose any money from fan attendance because there won't be fans there anyway. And that way, everybody finishes Thursday. You got a whole 7 days before the games begin the following week in Indianapolis, and really the first and second round Saturday and Sunday. So you have a little buffer, a little time to get 7 consecutive negative tests. And that way everybody gets 2 extra games. And a club like Carolina might be better off because they would host games. Because as it stands now, Jacob, they're going to end up with 8 ACC home games and 10 ACC road games. They would get 2 home games. Clemson would more than likely be one of them. And I don't think they bring Miami back. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Somebody else. And even if it could be a BC, which would be an easy win because they'd have like the water boy playing,
or with all their injuries,
UVA, which would be a very challenging but a winnable game at home, possibly winnable game, and certainly one that could launch them into a different spot in the tournament. So there's a lot still yet to be determined. Carolina, I'm not a big fan of the control your own destiny type phrase, but I think in a lot of respects they have a lot they will have a lot to do with where they end up. But they do need some help, and they can use some help. And Carolina fans should pay attention to those other teams out there that can help them.
For sure. I love that idea. By the way, AJ, I'm an advocate for that idea. I think it's a fantastic one. I really think that's what they should do. Now, will they do it? Who knows? But I think when you look at kind of how the season, like I said, this is a whole nother podcast we could do, but when you look at how things have kind of gone this season and the bubble in NCAA for the NCAA tournament, what that's supposed to be like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense trying to play a bunch of conference tournaments, around the country.
Louisville, Baylor, Florida State, Michigan, like they're all on pauses right now.
I
But
know.
Michigan and Baylor and Florida, Michigan and Baylor, that's two of the top 3 teams in the country. Been on pause.
Mhm.
Gonzaga had a game canceled this week.
Mhm.
So these are teams that, why would they go to their conference tournament? And
It doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Positive test. That's why I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, again, this wasn't the idea we're going to have in the podcast, but it is. A lot of this stuff is kind of all part of the equation right now, because if we're talking about a method for Carolina to get into the tournament and then get the highest seed possible, I think having 2 home games that week instead of an ACC tournament enhances their chances at A, getting in if they need it to get in, B, have ended up with a higher seed when they get to Indianapolis. Because what I'm also hearing is it looks like maybe everything's going to be in Indianapolis now. They won't even do it at U or IU or anything like that. And they have 4 arenas in Indianapolis where they can host this stuff. So this is so bizarre.
It's a good way to put it. It's crazy, man. A lot of moving parts. Yeah.
We're going to get back to normal maybe next year. We're going to look back. It's either going to be exciting because it'll be different because it's normal.
Yeah. It's normal again.
Or we're going to be bored stiff, waiting for the tournament to show up, because it's going to be, last year was more exciting because we had no idea what the heck was going on from day to day.
Yeah, exactly. You never know what's going to happen from day to day, man. It's crazy. But yeah, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see, over the next month or so, how things kind of play out, not only with Carolina and them trying to pick up some more wins and trying to end the year on a good note and see how high they can finish in the ACC, but also, like you mentioned, with the ACC tournament and how the NCAA tournament, goes down and all that. But yeah, as always, guys, Carolina got 7 remaining games, but, we'll be there to cover them. And so make sure you guys stay locked to TarHeelIllustrated.com and our YouTube channel here at Tar Heel Illustrated. That's going to do it for this one, AJ. I think we can go ahead and wrap this one up, man. But as always, guys, if you've enjoyed the video, be sure to like it, be sure to share it, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.